Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a seriously fascinating topic, deconstructing VS Compete and the 15-second attention economy. Exactly. We are looking at the literal architectural blueprints of a brand new app currently in development and figuring out exactly how it monetizes our shortening attention spans. Let's just dive right in. Okay, take a second and try to put yourself back into a very specific childhood headspace. Do you remember walking into a classic arcade? The air always smelled faintly of like burnt pepperoni pizza and ozone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're clutching this heavy plastic cup full of brass tokens, standing on that crazy glowing neon carpet, doing some desperate mental math just to figure out how to win a top shelf prize.
Exactly. You're calculating exactly how many tickets you need, feeling that ambient, chaotic rush of the arcade all around you.
Well, in that environment, you're not just playing a game for the fun of it. As our source material points out, you are essentially operating as a micro-investor.
A micro-investor trying to maximize your physical return on a handful of quarters.
Right. And that visceral translation of skill into tangible rewards, that is the beating heart of what we're unpacking in this explainer today. We've got a really rare look at how you build that arcade feeling from scratch for a smartphone, pulling from a recorded brainstorming session between the creator and his father, plus the actual back-end CSS style sheet. Usually, we only get to see the highly polished final product on the App Store, right? But here, we're looking at the raw structural blueprints of the user experience. The creator is attempting to totally resurrect that quick-burst arcade ecosystem.
And he's doing it by explicitly rejecting the bloated, time-consuming nature of modern games. He is swapping the grind for a relentless 15-second, high-stakes token economy.
But look, before we can even talk about the games themselves, we have to talk about the stakes. Because without stakes, a 15-second game is really just a fleeting distraction.
It's totally meaningless without stakes.
Exactly. VS Compete operates on this strict mathematical wager. The entry fee for a match is 3 tokens. Beat your opponents, and you walk away with 5.
The absolute clarity of that transaction is what makes it so functional. It's a pure head-to-head wager between 2 real human beings, no bots allowed. 2 players put in 3 tokens each, creating a total pot of 6.
Right, and the winner takes 5, which means the house basically rakes 1 token out of the economy per game as an operating fee. So securing a win yields a nearly 100% return on investment in exactly 15 seconds.
We should definitely clarify here, these are not just arbitrary digital points. These tokens require a real-world financial investment. They cost actual money.
And you can feel that aggressive energy in the in-game store design. It leans so heavily into those arcade aesthetics, neon lights, lightning bolts, basically demanding the user to buy, play, and win.
Oh, it's totally in your face. The pricing tiers start at $1.99 for a starter pack of 150 tokens, and they scale all the way up to a mega pack for $9.99, which gets you 1,200 tokens. Now, there is an option to earn free tokens through referrals, but mostly this store mimics that change machine at the very front of the physical arcade. You insert cash, you receive ammunition.
Ammunition is a great word for it, but the absolutely crucial part of this ecosystem, the thing that separates it from standard mobile games, is what happens with your winnings. The physical prizes. The creator explicitly states these games are not chance-based. There are 0 elements of random luck.
It is strictly skill-based. Players can take their accrued token winnings and redeem them for actual physical items shipped straight to their house. If you perform poorly, you redeem them for a cheap plastic spider ring.
The quintessential arcade consolation prize.
But on the other end of the spectrum, the top-tier prize is a literal Xbox controller.
Yeah, the creator notes that a physical arcade might have an Xbox hanging on the wall for some massive amount of tickets, and his app operates the exact same way.
So looking at this mathematically, it establishes a sort of law of conservation of arcade energy. Theoretically, if a player possesses enough raw skill, they could enter this ecosystem using just a few tokens and multiply their balance without ever spending another dime. In theory, sure, that's entirely possible. If a player's win rate offsets that 3-token entry fee to secure the 5-token payout, they become a net drain on the house. However, the creator brings up this fascinating concept of breakage during the brainstorming session.
Right. He's fully aware that a significant portion of the user base is going to buy a small amount of tokens, lose them quickly to highly skilled players, and simply leave the app.
But wait, if the ecosystem relies on top-tier players draining the wallets of casual players, how on earth does the app retain the casual user?
Well, that's the core vulnerability of any pure skill-based wagering ecosystem. Think daily fantasy sports or competitive poker. The casual player has to feel that the loss was purely their own fault and that improvement is actually possible.
Zooming out for a second, Digitizing this specific loop taps into a very deep behavioral mechanism. Standard mobile games usually operate on a closed-loop economy. You buy digital gems to unlock a digital chest to acquire a digital sword.
The value literally never leaves the glass of your screen. But by tying digital performance in VS Compete to tangible, real-world prizes, even if it's just a plastic spider ring mailed to your physical address, the app bridges the digital-physical divide.
It makes it real. It elevates the entire psychological weight of the interaction. A screen tap is no longer just moving pixels. It's a physical transaction with real-world consequences. And that tangible consequence fundamentally dictates the gameplay itself. If a player is risking real money on every single match, you cannot ask them to sit through a 20-minute tutorial or some drawn-out campaign.
Absolutely not.
The game must respect the player's time, and that's why the gameplay is engineered to be hyper-compressed. On the tape, you can hear his genuine frustration with modern gaming trends. He uses the term grind-based to describe how current games operate.
Yeah, he argues that rewards in modern gaming are increasingly just a metric of endurance. Having a high-level character doesn't necessarily mean you're highly skilled. It often just means you've sunk hundreds of hours into grinding out repetitive tasks.
The time investment completely replaces the skill requirement. His antidote to that grind is aggressive brevity. Every single match in VS Compete is designed to end in exactly 15 seconds.
It's a pure concession to the reality of modern attention spans. You enter the lobby, experience a massive burst of adrenaline. Somebody wins, and you are immediately out.
Within that tiny 15-second window, the app cycles players through microgames. Take the reaction time game. A giant stop sign sits on the screen, and the exact millisecond it turns green, the player has to click it. The system measures the reaction speed. But there's a massive flaw in measuring pure speed, which the creator runs into while testing a speed math game on the audio tape. The button mashing issue. In speed math, players see an arithmetic question alongside 4 multiple choice options. If the system only measures who clicks fastest, a player could violently mash all 4 answers in a fraction of a second. They'd register a faster completion time than the person who actually took the time to do the math. The creator catches this vulnerability in real time, noting that measuring only speed allows for blind mashing. So accuracy must be ruthlessly required to truly spike cognitive load. No second chances. None whatsoever. When an environment demands extreme speed, the brain relies on instinct. But absolute accuracy requires deliberate processing. Forcing a user to do both simultaneously on the very first attempt pushes their cognitive load to its absolute limit.
Because in a traditional video game, you have a recovery window. If you make a mistake, you can rethink your strategy. In a 15-second sprint, a single input error is instantly fatal. Game over. The pressure to be simultaneously fast and accurate compresses all the stress of a long-form gaming experience into a tiny, concentrated burst. Check out this specific visual asset used for the impact point in the custom Western Click Duel. It's an image file called bullethole.png, and it is far from a friendly, cartoonish aesthetic. It's very intense. It's the shattered, metallic visual. The edges of the silver impact point are sharp and jagged, and the center is a dark, empty void. It looks visceral, almost as if the physical glass of your phone took actual kinetic damage. When you pair that imagery with the user interface cues buried in the CSS style sheet, it paints a picture of a deliberately hostile environment. The CSS is essentially providing the rules of engagement for the user's sensory experience. Connecting this to the bigger picture, the style sheet operates almost like an architectural blueprint for psychological manipulation. Let's examine the typography for a second. For the main countdown timer, the CSS dictates a 120-pixel font size. To put that in perspective, a 120-pixel font on a mobile screen is massive. It absolutely dominates the visual real estate. It really does. And the CSS defines the color of that timer using a custom variable called dgold. The interface isn't politely informing you of the remaining time. It is visually screaming the countdown at you. The pressure is built straight into the code. Then look at the mechanics regarding the opponent. The code outlines a class called opBanner, assigned a bright red background, and positioned right at the top center of the screen.
The CSS includes an animation property instructing the banner to transition its opacity and drop into view in exactly 0.2 seconds whenever the opponent makes progress.
Imagine the user experience here. You are frantically trying to tap these jagged bullet holes, and out of your peripheral vision, this aggressive red banner violently drops down every fraction of a second. It screams that the other person is also tapping, also progressing. It's genuinely terrifying.
The physiological stress that induces is just brilliant.
The buttons themselves provide tactile feedback too. Correct choices trigger a deep green background, incorrect choices flash bright red.
But the most fascinating line of code is applied to the button interaction. It's btn::active, and inside brackets, transform::scale 0.98.
That specific line is absolutely crucial. When a user physically presses their finger against the flat glass of their screen, the CSS instantaneously shrinks the digital button by exactly 2%. It literally tricks the visual cortex.
The brain sees the image recede and interprets that change as physical depth. It provides the tactile illusion that you're smashing a physical button down into the device. It is entirely about manufacturing tactile feedback where none exists.
The code weaponizes scale, color, and motion to trick the brain. The interface itself becomes the source of tension, manufacturing a fight or flight response to compensate for the fact that a 15-second game just lacks the time to build narrative tension. Oh, and the app certainly doesn't forget to manipulate the user's ego either. In the CSS styling for the leaderboard, the top 3 positions are assigned standard gold, silver, and bronze borders. But there's a highly specific class defined simply as .me. When the user's own name appears on that leaderboard, the code injects a custom background gradient, applies a 2-pixel solid gold outline, and generates a glowing box shadow effect that radiates gold light outward. It visually separates the user from the rest of the pack, constantly reinforcing individual exceptionalism. It strokes your ego perfectly.
Yet, nestled right among the code for glowing borders and shrinking buttons, there is a much more sobering structural element. This is where the reality of the business model collides with the real world. The style sheet dedicates an entire section to an ID labeled #gate.
The age gate. The design comments identify this specifically as an age gate and a terms and conditions screen. It is coded as a dark overlay that completely covers the screen, forcing the user to agree to specific legal terms before even entering the ecosystem.
Which really highlights the immense legal complexity of what the creator is attempting to build here. Because it's not just a casual game anymore.
Not at all. When you combine real-world financial entry fees, a zero-sum token economy, and physical rewards ranging from plastic rings to an Xbox, you are in very dangerous territory. You are stepping directly into the crosshairs of sweepstakes regulations and gambling laws.
That is precisely why the audio recording places such heavy emphasis on the phrase strictly skill-based. Under many legal frameworks, the distinction between an illegal online gambling operation and a legal competitive tournament hinges entirely on whether the outcome is determined by chance or by skill.
It's the only legal shield they have. If a player loses their 3 tokens because they failed to click the green stop sign fast enough, that is a failure of reflex. But if there is even a fractional element of a random algorithm influencing who wins, that legal shield completely evaporates.
The sheer necessity of the age gate proves the stakes are no longer simulated. This financial loop basically operates on the exact same underlying principles as a sports betting application.
So when we pull all these disparate sources together, the audio recording of a father and son brainstorming, the raw CSS code dictating massive fonts and shrinking buttons, the jagged visual assets for a digital shootout, and the neon-soaked store mock-ups, we get a comprehensive view of the machinery behind VS Compete.
The creator is engineering an environment that strips away the bloated filler of modern interactive media, delivering raw head-to-head skill battles constrained to a ruthless 15-second window.
From the stark math of the 3 and 5 token wager, to the deeply nostalgic digital prize wall, to the fascinating synthesis of old-school physical arcade stakes and modern mobile pacing.
Understanding this machinery really forces us to look at how our own daily habits are shifting. The media, platforms, and games we interact with are rapidly adapting to cater to an audience that demands immediate resolution.
It requires us to evaluate what we actually perceive as a reward nowadays. Like, are we still capable of engaging with a slow grind where the payoff is delayed for weeks? Or has the digital ecosystem conditioned us to require the instant gratification of a 15-second victory?
VS Compete is betting that the modern user simply wants to insert their token, click the targets, and immediately receive their payout.
Which leaves us with a much deeper question to consider as we wrap up. If developers are continually optimizing our digital environments into these hyper-compressed 15-second bursts of pure reaction, they're changing the baseline of what our brains find stimulating.
Absolutely.
If we spend all our cognitive energy chasing the 15-second digital spider ring, how do we navigate real-world problems that take years?
Might we lose the capacity for the deep, sustained focus required to navigate the real world?
It's definitely something to think about. That's all for today's Explainer. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.